If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.
You're listening to the Dr. Sky Experience, heard exclusively here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. A station heard in well over 173 countries, all 50 states, and beaming itself out to the nation, the world, and I'm even confident, out into the universe. If you're a first-time listener to the Dr. Sky Experience, particular podcast, which we talk about a couple of times a month and share with you visible sky events that you can see whether you live in a light-polluted city or in the deep dark of rural communities. Welcome to the skies of November 2025, an interesting month in which weather systems across the nation change rapidly. The month of October, as I mentioned before, is considered across the continental United States maybe one of the most tranquil, but November certainly can fool us too. As we begin our journey, a reminder. You can listen to the Dr. Sky Experience live here on Talk Radio 77 WABC, Fridays midnight Eastern Standard Time to 2 a.m. Saturday mornings, and Saturday night midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday morning Eastern Standard Time. Email me at DRSKY, Dr. Sky at WABCRadio.com as we talk with you about the great subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, celebrity guests, and included in that, stories of American exceptionalism, particularly those that served our nation and those in the law enforcement and in the public sector community and first responders. We haven't forgotten you and never will. Let's begin with the skies of November as we talk about the moon. The moon, an interesting object, whether you love it or not. And why I say that is, obviously the brightness of the moon washes out some of the faint sky objects. But for all of you that love the moon, let's begin. The full moon for November occurred on the 5th. It was a supermoon. A supermoon is a moon that coincides with its full phase toward the time of the month when the moon is at a position called perigee. So that occurred. That was the super, full beaver moon. Then the moon wanes. Each night, less and less moonlight, rising later, last quarter on the 12th of November. Then it continues to wane from its visible light to a tiny, thin, slender crescent. Moving on to the new moon phase on the 20th of November, and then the lunation begins again, the start of lunation 1273, looking low in the southwestern sky by the night of the 20th and the 21st. You may be able to see the thinnest of all crescent moons. First quarter as we wrap up the month of November on the 28th. The Greek word for planets is planeteos. It means wandering stars. And to the ancients, these objects moved about the nighttime sky throughout the various constellations of the zodiac, the so-called 13 signs of the zodiac, as we mentioned before, adding a star group and constellation called Ophiuchus into the 13th number. What planets can you see? Let's begin in the evening sky. The planet Mars, extremely close to the southern sky, and then into the southwest, very difficult to see at all unless you have a high-powered telescope. The planets that are easy to see, high up in the southeast at sunset, is Saturn, the original ring planet. Those of you with telescopes will look at Saturn and you'll see a very thin edge-on ring, barely visible even in the telescope, because every 15 years, the Earth crosses the ring plane. In another 12 years or so, you might get to see another repeat of this, but right now, Saturn is in your sky. Of all the planets of the known solar system, the 8 official, Saturn may have more moons than any of the other planets, and that is an interesting story. Other planets that we can see in the evening sky, there happens to be a really interesting one, though faint. The planet Uranus, discovered on March the 13th, 1781, by the great observer William Herschel. He himself, ladies and gentlemen, observed this with about a 6-inch telescope. This was one of the major planets of the solar system beyond that of the planet Saturn. How to find it? If you look high up into the northeastern part of the sky, by about the time period, let's say, of 10 p.m., the constellation zodiac sign of Taurus, the bull, is there, and an interesting group of stars, sometimes called the Seven Sisters, is the Pleiades star cluster. The planet Uranus is just a few degrees to the right of that bowl of the Pleiades. But to find it, you probably want to go to this website, theskylive.com. Theskylive.com is a great website that will help you, ladies and gentlemen, identify so many of the objects that we talk about here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Other planets, if you move into the morning sky, well, just around midnight, if you look into the northeast, you'll see the brilliant planet Jupiter. Jupiter, the god Zeus, an amazing planet getting closer to the Earth by that of January of 2026. Take advantage of this object right now. Telescopes and binoculars can reveal those 4 Galilean satellites. And looking very low, ladies and gentlemen, into the morning sky, into the southeast, you find the planet Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, an amazing object to see moving closer to the horizon. Meteor showers abound in the month of November. We begin earlier in the month with the great meteor storms known as the Northern Taurid and Southern Taurid meteor showers. These come from the general direction of the constellation Taurus, as I mentioned before, the area where the planet Uranus is and the Pleiades star cluster. Sometimes people see brilliant fireballs from these, thus they're known by many as the Taurid fireball shower. We also find out another great meteor shower takes place on the evening hours of the 16th of November into the 17th. That is the Leonid meteor shower, a most amazing event. Every 33 years, the Leonids roar. In 2025, we can maybe expect 10 or 20 meteors per hour. Where do you look? Leo rises right in the east by, let's say, around midnight. The head of the lion in the constellation sense is where the meteors are coming from. All these particular objects coming from a comet called 55P, the Comet Tempel-Tuttle. There have been great examples of meteor storms. In 1833, before he became president, Abraham Lincoln witnessed one of the great explosive events from this particular storm or shower called the Leonids. And in 1966, the Leonids roared once again for observers in southern Arizona where they were standing on top of Kitt Peak, and they saw, believe it or not, some 500,000 meteors an hour for a short period in time. Thus, the Leonids can roar. All of these meteors that you see are debris from comets coming out of the tailpipe of comets. A great comet observer, David Levy, described comets and cats as being kind of alike. And this is interesting, and his quote goes like this: "Comets and cats are very much alike. They both have tails, and they do exactly what they want." Very apropos. So also, you've been hearing about many, many comets in the sky. Some information I would agree with, and some I wouldn't. I'd like to know what you think. My email is just drsky@wabcradio.com. One comet that's still technically visible in binoculars is Comet 2025 A6 Comet Lemon. And if you want to see it into the southwestern skies in a clear and dark sky, once again, the finder charts are at theskylive.com. But the other object of contention is of great concern to me and many of you. The so-called interstellar comet, 3I Atlas. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an object from interstellar space, we agree. But many in the media are claiming that this is an extraterrestrial spacecraft. I've been observing comets for 40 years, and even though I don't know all there is to know about this 3I Atlas, I can tell you what the general astronomical community does think. It is probably a very unusual comet coming from another star system. We know that. The first one of these interstellar objects was discovered by a good friend of mine, Robert Wyrick, at the Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii. And he and many others observed this object, which thought was to be like a pancake-shaped object, hurtling through the solar system and moving away from the sun at ever-increasing speeds. We think, that is astronomers, that it's probably a comet of unusual origin. Then there was Comet Borisov, another, quote, interstellar comet. These interstellar comets take parabolic orbits, meaning they travel for millions of years, say from one star to the other. And now the discovery recently of 3I Atlas, Many in the media are talking about it being a spacecraft because it's either ejecting small little particles like little satellites. I can only tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence on the side of it being a comet is actually more in line with critical thinking and common sense. But we don't know for sure. But the truth of the matter is, it more likely, in my opinion and others, is simply a comet. If you'd like, ladies and gentlemen, to find many Earth satellites, we recommend heavens-above.com to learn about the many Earth-based satellites that you can see in the nighttime sky from the Chinese space station Tiangong, the International Space Station, the Hubble Space Telescope, and a plethora of other satellites. Again, appreciate being here with you, ladies and gentlemen, wishing you the best for the holiday season, a happy Thanksgiving, and a most joyous holiday season in Christmas and Hanukkah, as we celebrate the wonders of the nighttime sky. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my statement is this. Always remember to keep your eyes to the skies. We look to the skies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your navigator on the highway to the heavens, a highway that has no tolls at this time, free for the viewing to expand our minds. Have a great week, clear skies, and good health.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.